Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. William Woods, and today our presenters for this culture care segment are from the Forbes School of Business. And we have Dr. Naima Quarles and Dr. Breon Haskett and Dr. William G. Woods. Today, for our culture of care session, we are, as you can see, a diverse panel consisting of an associate faculty member, also a new full-time faculty member, and myself, a full-time faculty member who's been with the organization or the university for like 17 years. Uh, One full-time faculty member is an associate professor. The other one, myself, I am a full professor. Each member of the panel is a Black origin. A three-member panel here consists of two males and one female. And that becomes very, very important because of who we serve in our student population. And those kind of things can help us relate to them. Well, the one thing that I'd like to say is the views and opinions expressed in this video are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the positions of the University of Arizona Global Kindness. You know, each of us, we selected quotes, and so the first one I'm going to share with you is by Dr. Quarles. Kindness is the language of which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. That's by Mark Twain. I shared one by Jackie Chan, and it's sometimes it takes only one act of kindness and caring to change a person's life. And then Dr. Haskett, he shared one by Theodore Roosevelt. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, let me tell you a little bit about each of our presenters. Dr. Quarles is a self-motivated and progress-driven with an extensive background in business, organizational design, and leadership. With a long-standing record of initiatives and innovation, Dr. Quarles has developed and executed strategies that have been proven valuable to the organizations that she served and the courses that she has facilitated. She strives to include her students' learning needs while incorporating curriculum appropriate objectives with effective student learning and engagement. With over 20 years of experience as an educator, technologist, and professional, she encourages her students to begin each course by asking as many questions as they need to feel comfortable with the material. Now, Dr. Haskett spent his early leadership years in the service of the nation as a U.S. Marine. After 25 years, he retired and entered the workforce as a leadership consultant, speaker, and C-suite mentor. He has also worked in strategic leadership roles in large nonprofits. Dr. Haskett holds a PhD in education with a specialization in organizational leadership. A critical driver of his teaching philosophy is that courses that are not both challenging and encouraging are ultimately, at least from some students' perspectives, not believed to be useful. I've worked at three universities during more than 20 years of course instruction. I have extensive instruction experience in physical and online settings. I have served as a program chair and a lead faculty member. I am a faculty council chair emeritus. I've served as the faculty council co-chair and also as a faculty senate chair. I serve as the promotion advisory committee chairman. I also created and updated multiple business courses for the university. I also served as the advisor for our student honor group, the Golden Key International Honor Society. I'm dedicated to engaging, empowering, and encouraging and enlightening each student. Well, as we look at our presentation, we're going to go through a round of questions. They're focusing on how does the culture of care program compare and or contrast with any retention program at a previous school. Then we'll focus on considering our first thoughts after learning about the program at UAGC. Lastly, we'll consider two of the victories that our students have earned through participation in the program. So let's start this off today with Dr. Quarles. Dr. Quarles, how does the culture of care program compare and or contrast with any of the retention programs at a previous school?
Thank you, Dr. Haskett, for that wonderful introduction and for the initial question. You know, in my experience, while there are some similarities between the cultural care program here at UAGC and other retention programs at other institutions, I do feel that there are some notable differences in terms of the approach, the scope, and the emphasis of our culture of care. The first one being that we generally try to take a holistic approach versus a traditional methodology. In the culture of care for our students, it's looking at the student as a whole. It's taking a holistic approach to that student retention, and we're focusing not only on academic success, but we're also looking at the personal well-being and the community of engagement for that student. That is in direct contrast to some of the other traditional methods that I've been exposed to throughout my career, where those programs are focused primarily on academic support services such as tutoring or advising. And here, our students are really looked at as a whole being, and we're really trying to move that student along the process for completion. Another thing that I've found to be very, very different here is that we really engage with early intervention in a proactive support type of approach. We are really emphasizing early intervention. We're really looking for proactive support for our students because we're looking at that risk of attrition very early on in the process. That includes any kind of proactive outreach, any kind of targeted interventions, and there is a network and host of support services that we refer our students to, that we offer to our students, and that we are trying to engage within the actual course and curriculum. I am finding that that proactive approach is really different in some ways because it's not just looking at a reactive approach where we're trying to then get the student back on track. We're looking at supporting that student up front so that we don't have to then support the student after they've already experienced any kind of academic difficulties.
All right, fantastic, Dr. Quarles. And Dr. Haskett, what about you?
What I think, and I'm going to jump on board with everything you said, Dr. Quarles. In fact, uh, definitely echoing particularly the sentiment about um, how we differ in terms of kind of some of the nuanced features of the culture of care, particularly the intervention pieces. Many of the experiences that I've had at other schools, while they do have retention programs, the interventions are typically at the beginning of the course, perhaps a midterm or a mid portion of the course, and then uh, close to the finish line of the course where an additional intervention might be needed. With our culture of care, we differentiate that level of intervention in that it's throughout the course. We open up the course with hopefully an open and relatable, experience for the student at the beginning. We let them know that we're there for them, and then um, we demonstrate that through the types of feedback that we provide, um, being able to assess when students need something, and then being able to provide again that relatable um, resource for them that they can go to if they are in trouble. But ours again differentiates strictly, as I see it, from the standpoint of we engage the student throughout the course and even post course. This incomplete program that's part of culture of care is definitely a big difference in what I've experienced at other schools. Whereas if we weren't able to obtain academic success and through the other intervention processes, then that student would just have to take less than the top level academic success and move on to another course. But here we provide the opportunity in case, and we all know life happens, in case something happens, if we do get to the end of the course and we've employed all intervention methods and the student still needs some additional time, we're able to pull out the incomplete process. And I've really enjoyed utilizing that process because it allowed me to help some students gain academic success that otherwise would have been lost in terms of being able to complete the course.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your response. in my career, it's weird, but two different universities, we took attendance and then we would submit the attendance to the registrar's office. And then it wasn't on our hands at that point. It went to the student's advisor. But at one school, we served as the advisors and the professors. And so we had double duty. And that kind of worked because sometimes you would call the student and check on them and see how they're doing. But some students would just get lost in the system. And that's just the way it was. And the way that we would handle it, if the student did a passive drop where they didn't warn us about it or anything, we just try to re-enroll them. And so, I mean, that's good and that's not good. It's good that we touched base with them again about their academic dreams, the thing that brought them to us in the first place. But then it wasn't good because they weren't interested enough to say anything to us. And so then we would end up being in the position of having to just convince them, come on, come back. Hey, you want to switch programs? And, so do things like that. But here at the University of Arizona Global Campus, we have something in our course rooms that's called Signals. And it lets us know how the student has been doing course to course and how they're trending in the present course. And so that gives us a good idea. But at the same time, that lets us know the week that they're taking the class, what's going on with them right then and there. And so then we can do what we call early intervention and be able to interact with the students at that point. And so that's a big plus in my opinion, because last thing you want to do is see one of your students get lost in the system and have them explain, well, that student's in your class, right? You don't know what's going on with them. Here, we're supposed to know what's going on with our students and then contact them and be a source of encouragement to them. So what I want to do now is move on to our next question. Consider your thoughts after learning about the program here at UAGC, your first time you heard of it. Go ahead, Dr. Quarles.
Okay. I really was surprised and amazed to see, just to piggyback on that predictive analysis you were talking about, just to see how that played into that proactive support and our premise of early intervention. I find that the culture of care really, really emphasizes early intervention because we do have the analysis to understand if a student is at risk of attrition, right? Through that data analytics piece that we have and that predictive modeling, we can kind of identify students who are struggling academically or who are facing personal challenges. And honestly, by intervening early with that type of targeted support services, such as like the tutoring, or if there's counseling, maybe there's mentorship, or maybe it just might be hey, you did really well in class this week. I like what you did. We also have the ability to do that, to send that type of encouragement to the student. I'm just finding that we've been able to really address issues prior to them becoming a student going into non-complete status or it negatively impacting our retention rates. Another just thing that I'm finding here versus everywhere else that I've been is that increased engagement and that almost sense of belonging, even though we have students who are attending from distance, right? You wouldn't think that just having a culture of caring about students would help students feel more connected or help them feel like they belong to their institution and that they have a peer group that they can reach out to. I know for a fact that when students feel a sense of belonging, they're more likely to engage actively in their studies and in campus life and to understand the tools and use the tools that are available to them. And so that increased engagement, it really does translate into stronger retention rates, as the students are more than likely less likely to feel isolated or disconnected from the university community itself, and they're less likely to give up on their dreams of trying to finish their program.
Fantastic. And what about you, Dr. Haskett?
So I remember when the culture care was first rolled out, we had multiple training sessions related to just getting the faculty and the part-time folks oriented to what this actually was. And given I had some experiences at a brick and mortar, I've heard some of the buzzwords before. And so I was in a wait and see mode. And I was a wait and see mode because, at least from my vantage point, I viewed any true retention effort, true caring effort as a partnership, right? And so we use this language, we culture of care, but was it going to be a real true partnership with the student? Because that's the most effective in terms of retention, at least from my vantage point. And so I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it was. In fact, even down to our contracts, what the expectations were for the faculty and instructors teaching the courses, it was hammered into us in a nice way that this is a true partnership where we want you to build relationship with the students. We want you to have early and ongoing interventions with the students. And these are the tools available to aid you in moving both you and the student in the right direction toward academic success. And so, again, when I heard it, I said, okay, I'm in the wait and see mode. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that the aspirational goal that they originally shared with us is the true goals that we are experiencing now, utilizing the culture of care. So,
Thank you, Dr. Haskett. You know, when I first heard of it, I had some questions for myself. How much more time is this going to put on my schedule? What all is really truly going to be required of me that's not being said yet? And then the last thing was, can I be successful doing it? And so I wondered those things. And, you know, it's natural for us in academia to wonder about the things that aren't said and to have questions about those. And, you know, when we have training sessions, our hands go up and we have a plethora of questions that we want to ask. And so I would say that I got all my questions answered, especially after the program launched, and I was able to meet the time that I needed to be able to give just that much more attention to, especially some of our students that were experiencing life events, because you know our students, they're non-traditional. A vast amount of them are fully employed, or they're part of the U.S. military, and a lot of them already have children. And so they have a lot of life events that can occur that can sometimes make it very, very difficult for them to continue in any program. Well, now that we've considered those, let's move into student victories, okay? So let's go with the first student victory from Dr. Quarles.
Sure. You know, I am just super excited about being at an institution that honestly cares about the entirety of the student, about their emotional and their mental health support. I don't think I've ever been in an institution that actually had that as part of their framework. And so that has been a breath of fresh air to see that that is part of our culture here. Because, you know, just 2 terms ago, I had a student who was the spouse of a military member. And yes, we love our military and we are very thankful for everything that they do, but there's also another component to if they have family, right? The family member that is supporting that military service member. And her husband had just been deployed. She was living the single mom experience, 3 children under 5 and trying to go to school full time. And this was something that was unexpected. They hadn't planned on this. Like none of this was part of the plan, right? And so that she was supposed to be attending school and going to work and having everything in line. And then this happened. And she was right in the middle of her term and her coursework started suffering. And because we had that predictive analysis, I was able to see, okay, so your engagement this week was down. I'm seeing that now all of a sudden you have where you're late on one of your assignments and you have not had that as part of your metrics in the past. Okay, something is going on. I remember her bio for when she was initially introducing herself, and she said she was a, wife of a military person. And I just remember interacting with her in the beginning. And so I reached out to her just, to offer that, hey, I see that these things happen. Is there anything that you need? How can I assist you during this time? And just because I reached out, she felt comfortable enough to reach back out to me and tell me what was going on with her situation, and to give me explanation and apology as to, I can't believe I'm late and this was not my intention. And Dr. Quarles, I'm so sorry. And, all the things that come out. And we were able to work together and get her through the course. We were able to get her through the coursework. She was able to finish. She was able to move on to the next course without there being this penalty or this stigma that she was a bad student, or that she was careless and that she didn't care about her education. Because we valued her entire being and everything that's going on in her life, as well as what she's contributing in the coursework, she was able to make it through, and I was able to be a partner with that. And that has really stuck with me as the culture of care proponent, as somebody who is really trying to champion for my students, because I understand life is happening. I understand that you have a life outside of this. If I can bring that understanding and you can bring your A game to the course, we can get you through this. I promise you, you're going to get through it.
Fantastic. How about you, Dr.
Well, I
Haskett?
really enjoyed hearing that you remembered her initial introduction post and grabbed that. I go back to those introduction posts all the time. It gives me a frame of reference sometimes, particularly if the students are struggling. Um, and particularly with our military students, some of them will tell me, based in, I'm a retired Marine, they will tell me, I'm at this particular unit or this part of the world, and my expectation is that they may be placed in some challenging situations during the midst of the course. And my success story deals exactly with that subject, in that I had a military member who was being deployed to in harm's way. He knew that he was going to have some challenges related to getting online and Wi-Fi, because they work 24 hours a day and getting the courses done. And just prior to him actually getting ready to go, hopping on the airplane and going, we finished what we believe was a great, execution plan to get him through the finish line of the course. And it was a great success for me because, I've been in that student's shoes, and I think I built up what I will call relational trust, just based on those shared experiences with that student. And so, to come full circle here, I think I take very seriously the faculty introduction, because I want the students to know that I've been where you have been, particularly for the military students, but for all adult learners, because that's the track on which, I became a doctor, a PhD. I was an adult learner with a family in the military, still getting orders, still being deployed. And so I share that with the students. And so when they are having challenges in those areas, I think they feel as if, one, I understand, two, it aids in that, again, relatable trust. And they trust me enough to sit down with them and come up with a plan so that they have academic success. And so that's one of those success stories based upon kind of the culture of care framework.
Fantastic. In my example, it began kind of like a worst case scenario, because I got to week 3 out of 6 weeks in the course, and the student hadn't submitted any assignments, even though I had contacted and contacted, and the student had told me, gonna get it in, gonna get it in. And I had set, extra deadlines so the student would have a chance to get it in, and it didn't happen. And so then, um, at the end of week 3, I contacted her advisor and I said, okay, here's what's happening. And if she doesn't do something right away, she's not going to be successful in the class. So we got to talk to her in a way that will possibly connect with her in the way that she needs to be connected with. Well, I came up with a way of connecting with her. because she told me, well, I want an incomplete. And I said, well, right now you haven't done anything to earn it incompletely. And I said, this is kind of like a car deal or a house deal where the bank always asks for a down payment. In this case, I need a down payment, and it's going to be your two of your papers. And you got to get those in before the end of this class. And I said, the papers I want are the week 5 paper and the week 6 paper. Now, what surprised me because the student hadn't turned in any, and she didn't even turn in one for week 4. All of a sudden, in week 5 and week 6, she got both of her papers done. And that made it so that she only had 4 more papers to go for income to get completed during the incomplete, which is 30 days. And it was amazing. She was getting it done, getting it done. She's calling me on the telephone and talking to me, and I'm encouraging her. And it was really neat because at my age it seemed like she was my daughter. And so I told her, I am really becoming very proud of you. And I could hear her get weepy on the phone. I said, well, hey, you're doing what you need to do for yourself and for your family. And you're going to be able to tell your family the story about how you overcame adversity so that you could have success. And so she encouraged me, and that helped me to encourage her. And to see her get that victory, that amazed me because I hadn't seen a student come from that far behind to all of a sudden catch up and then to finish well. And so, when you think about the culture of care, we're not alone
Hmm.
because, like the three of us here, we have stories and we're sharing them with each other right now and sharing them with you out there. And then we have advisors to be able to team with. We have the registrar's office to be able to team with. I was like every office in the university, we have those to team with that come up with a solution for the students that are meeting in our course rooms. And so we've had some good successes with this, and we're going to continue to work for our students to keep it going. And the one thing I want to repeat one more time in closing is sometimes it takes only one act of kindness and caring to change a person's life. And as professors, that's what we're here for, is to change the life of our students so that they can have success and even future generations can have success. Look, any last words, Dr. Quarles?
Just to piggyback on what you said, in a world where there are so many different diverse backgrounds and abilities and perspectives, kindness and caring really does serve that common language, and it transcends all barriers. We've seen that with our students. We've seen that with each other. We've seen that within our university. And I'm just excited to continue being a proponent for our culture of care.
All right. Any last words, Dr. Haskett?
Well, I think Dr. Quarles said it all, but I will just mention that, our students expect a lot out of us, and so they should. We expect a lot out of them, but I think it's the nature of the partnership, how we employ the culture of care, that makes the magic happen, if you will, that allows them to enter into that partnership with us to get them to the academic finish line. And so I'm excited about it moving forward, and was really excited about being part of this panel. So
Fantastic. And to all of you who have attended, thank you for being here today. We're so glad that you were able to attend this panel. And look, culture of care, there's a whole lot of sessions that you can attend and choose from. So enjoy. Take good care.